Well, hey guys, as you know, sleep is super important for having healthy, glowy, radiant skin. I emphasize this in a lot of my videos that it is one of the most important things aside from sun protection that you can do to keep your skin healthy. In this video, we're going to be talking about a new study that's coming out this month in the journal The American Academy of Dermatology, examining the impacts of having a skin issue on sleep and how sleep deprivation has so many downstream negative consequences to your health, including the health of your skin. But before we get into it, make sure you're subscribed to this channel if you like skincare content from a dermatologist. Hit the bell notification because that is going to let you know as soon as my videos go live. This paper is a big time review of the literature on how sleep is impacted by having a chronic inflammatory skin condition. Most of the literature out there focuses on people who deal with either eczema, which is known as atopic dermatitis, or people who suffer from psoriasis. Both of these skin conditions can negatively impact sleep quality, and that feeds into disease flares. But sleep disturbances don't just stop with those conditions. Even though there isn't a lot of research, it is quite clear that sleep disturbance is associated with other chronic inflammatory skin conditions. Sleep is very important for healing and recovery, and regardless of if you have a skin condition or not, it goes without saying that you need a good night's sleep in order for your skin to be at its prime, healthy, and functional, protecting you from the outside world. Did you know that 87% of adults who have eczema report having sleep disturbances and poor sleep? Getting high quality sleep is vital for an individual's physical, mental, and emotional well-being. And being chronically sleep deprived has serious negative consequences on your overall quality of life as well as on your health. Make sure you stay tuned to the end of the video because we're going to be going over tips, including what is recommended in this paper, for getting your sleep back on track. Did you know that being sleep deprived not only negatively impacts your mood, but it also can lead to more lost days of work? People with chronic inflammatory skin conditions reporting sleep deprivation also note an increased number of days of missed work, and they also have more frequent visits to the doctor's office because guess what? Sleep is really important for the function of your immune system. If you don't sleep well, you get run down, your body is not able to heal properly, and you're more susceptible to getting colds and flus, and you get sick more often. That leads to more days of lost work, and then maybe you stress out about that. It feeds into a vicious cycle. And having a skin condition overlaid on top of that exacerbates everything tenfold. Maybe because of psychological distress of having a skin condition, maybe you socially isolate, and that we know can have negative impacts on your mental health and subsequent sleep quality. Or maybe you suffer from itch, which we know gets much worse and is intensified at nighttime. Why is this exactly? Why does itch get elevated and ramped up at night? There are a few factors that likely explain this. Your skin follows a circadian rhythm similar to how you follow a circadian rhythm with your sleep cycle. You wake up in the morning, or you should, and you go to bed at nighttime. Your skin kind of follows somewhat of a similar pattern, and that certain cytokines, which are kind of little messengers in the immune system, are elevated at nighttime, and these particular cytokines are more inflammatory and they can exacerbate discomfort in the skin, including itch, and are a major driving factor for itch. On the flip side of that, in the morning, anti-inflammatory cytokines are much higher. You also have changes in the hormone cortisol, and your body experiences a spike in cortisol in the morning upon awakening, and that has an anti-inflammatory effect, whereas that level dips down at nighttime. Couple that with the inflammatory cytokines, and you also have an increase in transepidermal water loss. At nighttime, your core body temperature lowers in order to help you fall asleep, and peripherally out in the skin, the blood vessels dilate. This increase in vasodilation correlates with increased blood flow through the skin and subsequently more transepidermal water loss. And as the skin loses more water, it is more prone to the sensation of itch. A lot of chronic inflammatory skin conditions get a lot worse at nighttime. Interestingly enough, there are other chronic inflammatory diseases that are not related to the skin that also get worse at nighttime. This is likely because of the circadian rhythm and changes in the inflammatory cytokines. For example, rheumatoid arthritis, osteoarthritis, and inflammatory bowel disease symptoms can get much worse at nighttime. And asthma. Comment below on if you have asthma. A lot of people who have eczema also have asthma, and both conditions by themselves can and do get much worse at nighttime. So you can imagine if you're having an asthma exacerbation and your eczema is flaring, that is a setup for a poor night of sleep. Where having a chronic inflammatory skin condition really sneaks in to disrupt your sleep quality is in the itch-scratch cycle. All of these changes that happen to the skin at nighttime, all of these differences that lead to more water loss, more inflammatory mediators, they increase the sensation of itch. Little compounds in the skin called pruritogens are coming through the skin. That sensation of itch is there. And when you're sleepy and half asleep, your ability to suppress scratching behaviors goes out the window. And what happens is that as you start to have that itch sensation, you scratch. Scratching elicits an inflammatory response in the skin that further aggravates the underlying skin condition and brings in more itch signals, making it more likely that you scratch. Now, with the scratching behavior, that coincides with wakefulness and arousals and not you being asleep. People who have inflammatory skin conditions like eczema, when their skin disease is flaring, they actually have lower levels of the hormone melatonin. This is a hormone. It helps control our sleep-wake cycle. I have a video all about melatonin supplements where I describe how this hormone works, and I also have a video all about applying melatonin to the skin. But yeah, that hormone can dip down as people are experiencing flares of their skin. This study brings to light the fact that people who deal with chronic inflammatory skin conditions, they have a higher rate of sleep disturbances, and they also have a much higher rate of underlying mood problems, especially depression. People who have chronic inflammatory skin conditions and are constantly waking up throughout the nighttime, they have a lot of difficulties with day-to-day tasks. Poor memory, they're sleepy throughout the day. Children who have their sleep cycle disrupted from an underlying eczema, most commonly, these children have a much greater likelihood of having neurocognitive problems as a result of the sleep deprivation. And they can have the appearance of someone who has a learning disability or a problem with attention or a behavior problem, when in reality, they are sleep deprived from their poorly controlled eczema and itch scratch cycle, keeping them up all night. Disruption in sleep doesn't just impact the kids, it impacts the parents and or caregivers of the child, because as the child wakes up in the night, guess what? Kids don't just like wake up, roll over, and try and go back to sleep. What do? They wake up and they come in the caregiver's bedroom and they want some comforting. And a lot of times what ends up happening is you have co-sleeping, where the child comes in and the parent gives in because the parent is sleepy and lets the child sleep in the bed. And this is actually associated with poor sleep in both the child and the adult. So the adult is now losing sleep. They're being woken up by the child gets in their bed, and the bed doesn't accommodate everyone as comfortably. There's more waking up, the child is still scratching, that wakes up the caregiver in the bed. It can be a cycle of problems for the sleep quality of not only the child, but the caregiver as well. And studies show that there is an increase in the anxiety levels of parents with kids who have eczema, and there's also a greater incidence of maternal depression in children with eczema. And this may explain that, because both parties, the parents, caregivers, and the child, are not getting good restorative sleep. Research shows that the co-sleeping that parents give into can sacrifice their sleep anywhere from 40 minutes a night to 2 hours and 40 minutes a night. That is a lot of sleep that adults are missing out on. When we're talking about the impact of skin issues on the sleep quality of adults, there is a greater risk of getting into car fatalities if you are sleep deprived. Being sleep deprived, it actually actually impairs your cognitive function, your executive decision making, and your response time. And in some studies, it actually does suggest that it is the equivalent to being under the influence of alcohol if you are sleep deprived. We already know that people with chronic inflammatory skin conditions like eczema and psoriasis experience a greater burden of comorbid depression. And regardless of having a skin condition or not, having depression is very much associated with sleep disturbances. So having a chronic inflammatory skin condition plus depression is like a double hitter to your sleep quality. Studies show that this can impair the onset of REM sleep latency. It also can increase awakenings throughout the night and decrease deep sleep. The social isolation that can come with having a chronic inflammatory skin condition also can feed into poor quality sleep. A lot of people with psoriasis or eczema, when their skin condition is flaring, they do have feelings of embarrassment. I know a lot of you have verbalized in the comments that you have felt this way about other skin conditions that you are dealing with, whether it be your acne or your melasma. And a few weeks ago, I reviewed a paper talking about how having acne can negatively impact someone's mental health. And in women were reporting that having acne really got in the way of their social lives, their social interactions, and their professional relationships. So you can begin to see how much having a skin condition really does start to feed into your psychological well-being, and your sleep is right up there. In making this video, I really hope to increase awareness of the fact that having a chronic skin condition, whether it be eczema, acne, psoriasis, hidradenitis suppurativa, these conditions, they take a toll on the individual's physical, mental, and emotional well-being in many, many facets of their lives. Stop commenting on people's skin. I still see this rampant on social media where people just feel entitled to comment about people's skin, whether it be their acne, redness on their face, or if their face is shiny. I mean, they're always making these offhanded comments. Those kind of comments really can just be the tipping point for a lot of other problems down the road for these people, including poor sleep, social isolation. If you make these types of comments, they're not doing anyone any favors. It's not as though the person who has said skin thing that you're pointing out is like not aware of it, or that you're suddenly like providing them a service by commenting that. This video hopefully illustrates to you how much people with skin conditions are dealing with on the back end of things that you don't see. And taking it upon yourself to comment on something about their skin is not helpful, and in fact, arguably can be quite harmful. So think about that the next time you feel entitled to make a comment about somebody's skin. What can we do moving forward to help get our sleep back on track? First of all, if you have an underlying skin problem, see your doctor, a dermatologist. Maybe they may be able to refer you to a mental health provider, which is really important. For chronic skin conditions, addressing sleep and mental health are really, really vital to getting the disease under control, because if these things are not well addressed, you can throw steroid creams at a rash and it's not really helping the root issues. And poor sleep and psychological distress, they are directly going to feed inflammatory responses towards the skin. So it's very important to be addressing those aspects as well in the care. You probably have heard about the importance of sleep hygiene. It's something that people talk about, and it's kind of easy to brush off because it seems like, you know, not as much of a quick fix as we might like. It'd be great if we could all just take a pill or eat a certain food or do a certain, you know, handstand, whatever is on the TikTok, and then our sleep would get much better. But in reality, you have to do the work of teeing up your sleep hygiene. The first thing, and I struggle with this and always have, is to have a consistent bedtime and wake up time. No matter what time of year it is, go to bed at the same time and wake up at the same time. This is really important for your circadian rhythm. For kids especially, if you have a child who you think may have some sleep problems, obviously have them seen by their pediatrician. I'm not, telling you this is a replacement for that. But in terms of the bedtime and wake up time, being consistent with those times can really help out their sleep tremendously. If you're co-sleeping with your child, consider cracking down on that. I know everyone has very strong opinions on that on the internet, but it definitely can aggravate the problem of poor sleep in children with eczema, at least the studies suggest, as well as the sleep quality of the adult. Trust me, just think about it practically. If you are constantly being aroused all night by a small child scratching and rolling around trying to get comfortable, you're not going to sleep well. One thing that can aggravate any type of skin problem issue, but especially itch, is a dirty room. So clean up your room. Aero allergens, dust mites, and mildew, mold. These can really be triggers for itch and an eczema flare and more inflammation in the skin, poor sleep. I already mentioned a lot of children with eczema also have asthma, as well as adults. And the presence of these things in the room actually can aggravate the asthma as well. Respiratory problems. So make sure you're cleaning your linens regularly. You keep your room clean and don't have a lot of clutter in there, stuff that can accumulate dust. If you have a lot of clutter in your bedroom, even if you keep your room clean, it's not possible to constantly be dusting every little knickknack and things. If you have stacks of papers and stuff, you would be surprised how much dust that accumulates, and you're not really dusting all of those stacks of papers or things. So try and have a really minimalist bedroom. Keep the bedroom very dark at night when you sleep, or if you sleep during the daytime, utilize blackout curtains. Keep it cool, no light and no sound. So no TVs in the bedroom that have those little lights. Now we have our devices giving off light all the time. Get those out of the bedroom. Make it completely pitch black. It makes a huge difference. Get an eye mask if you think that will help, if that's comfortable for you to wear to block out light further. If you live in a city where there's a lot of urban noise, get some earplugs, or if you live in a building where you have loud people above you, get some earplugs to block out the noise. I've talked about how blue light from our devices can mess up our circadian rhythm quite a bit, and this paper actually suggests turning off and avoiding all blue light 2 hours before going to bed. I've always said about an hour before bed, but this paper suggests 2 hours. I think that is good. Very difficult, but yeah, I would encourage you to do that. I say very difficult because nowadays our devices rule our lives. So try and turn all of those things off. See if there's not something that you can do at nighttime that doesn't involve a screen. I think that will really help a lot. Whether it's writing in a journal, reading an actual book, paper book, or listening to an audio file, try and do something like that as opposed to looking at a screen. It really can help your brain begin to transition to sleep mode. Try and look out the window at natural sunlight first thing in the morning. If you live somewhere where the sun doesn't come up in the morning, or it's the time of year you have to get up early and it's still pitch black out, for resetting that circadian rhythm, maybe consider getting a light box. That can help. Just look at it for a few minutes first thing in the morning. It really can make you quite energized. I do this every morning when I get up. I make sure to go over to the window, open my curtains, and look out. And that natural sunlight hitting my eyes definitely does help get me going for the day. And you want to avoid caffeine in the afternoon. Avoid eating a large meal right before bed because that can sometimes cause reflux symptoms. Also, try and avoid going to bed hungry. You won't sleep well if you are thinking about food all night. As far as your skincare routine, I encourage you to do your bathing before you go to bed. Because as you go throughout your day, dust, pollen, pollutants settle on the skin and can serve as an inflammatory trigger for itch that subsequently can keep you up at night. Likewise, after you get done bathing, apply a moisturizer. Moisturizing at night kind of biohacks, if you will. I hate that term, but it does biohack the circadian rhythm changes, if you will, and inflammatory mediators and transepidermal water loss. It really helps mitigate some of those factors. Likewise, you'll notice that for certain skin conditions, a lot of times you are advised to use topical medications to apply them at night. And this is one of the reasons, because as I mentioned earlier, blood flow to the skin is increased at nighttime. And so it's thought that as there's more water being lost out of the skin, in the case of moisturizers, they're gonna help better, but active ingredients might actually penetrate better at nighttime. It's thought. There's not like robust research there, but for the, that's one reason why sometimes it's advised to use topical medications before bed because of this, circadian rhythm difference, because of circadian rhythm differences in inflammatory mediators, blood flow, and transepidermal water loss. All right, y'all, so that's what this study brought light to. I wanted to share it with you all to increase awareness of the fact that having skin problems is more than just a surface level issue. It really goes into the depths of affecting your physical, mental, and emotional health. And hopefully by watching this video, these tips help you get better control of your sleep, regardless of if you're dealing with skin conditions or not. But if you guys enjoyed this video, give it a thumbs up, share it with your friends, and as always, don't forget, sunscreen and subscribe. I'll talk to you guys tomorrow. Bye.